Hello, and welcome to Double Narratives with Dr. Hanji. Today, we're going to be looking at a very sensitive issue, and as you know, we're going to be considering both sides of the story. Now, we want to look at parental role when it comes to sex education. Who should be talking the talk? Now, let's first of all look at what obtains normally, especially within our society. Hmm. Actually, what obtains is nobody wants to take responsibility for talking sex education because the intricacies are so much. You know, one, you don't want to project yourself as being wayward to children or to family members. And then also, you also want to be careful because there is a thought in your mind that if I discuss sex with children or with young adults, does that not give them the liberty to begin to experiment with sex? So, being at this crossroad, also we have to answer the million-dollar question: who should actually do the talking, the father or the mother? Now, today we're going to be looking at a very balanced perspective, and I'm going to be of the assumption that sex education is taking place, and then we want to look at how we can achieve balance when it comes to sex education. Now, mostly you find that in teaching sex education rather, you find the males talking to the males and of course the females to the females. That is, you find the mothers educating the females while the fathers of course educate their sons. But then there is a missing link that I wish for us to consider today. First of all, I want to challenge us that it's very necessary that our children, at some point or the other, are enlightened about sex education. And I really want to tilt towards the perspective of our teen or our young adults. It's very important that they are exposed and they hear it first from us. The simple reason is sometimes you might be able to give them more credible information rather than what they might be picking up from friends or on the internet. Now, how do we now strike a balance? As a mother, wanting to discuss sex education with your daughter might come very naturally, even though sometimes we filter the information. We talk to them about genitals, but we really do not discuss sex and the intricacies of sex. But that is not the objective today. The objective today is striking a balance with the information you're giving your girl child. Now, when you talk to them about sex education, you have to, of course, know that at some point they are going to have sex. That is, if they are not already having sex. But they need to also understand a bit about the sexuality of the male gender. So, when you give them an information that is one sided, you create a problem which might eventually snowball into an issue when they start picking up very steady relationships. Now, you teach about genitals and hormones and the psychological and emotional effects of being in a relationship on your child, on your daughter. I think it's also very important that you teach them about what is the perspective of men towards the whole idea of sex and how do you project your sexuality without any shame to a man. For instance, you want to talk about menstruation and you need to put them in a state of acceptance that is part of life. Men know and they totally understand. In the same vein, when the men talk to their sons, they need to also enlighten them not just about their masculinity, about the fact that they can impregnate a young person, but also that girls have menstruation. It's a normal part of life. So they don't need to be squeamish about it it's part of life. And when you have to deal with the opposite gender, you have to come to the terms that it's part of their maturity and it's a vital aspect of being a woman. And loving a woman means you have to come to a state of acceptance. It's a biological process and there's absolutely nothing dirty about it. You also want to make your males understand that girls are moody and nasty when they're on their periods because they're in pains. And they're also trying to process the acceptance of themselves. So this balance is going to help them evolve in a total sexual cycle so that they understand not only what happens to them, but also what happens to the opposite gender. When we teach our daughters about sexuality, do we even mention to them that a man's ego is tied to his sexuality? And that just a nasty comment about their sexuality might ruin a relationship they have worked so hard to build? Do we also tell them about a man's frequency of demand when it comes to sex? And how this frequency of demand is also linked to his manhood and his sense of ego? So I think it's very important that from time to time, when we do enlighten our daughters or our sons, irrespective of whoever is doing the talking, whether it's the father to the daughter or the mother to the son, we must be able to take a very balanced perspective so they can have a wholesome sexual education. And like I always say, make sure we consider both sides of the narrative, double narratives. Don't forget to join me as I post other conversation, other issues that I'm sure will be very, very important when it comes to catering for communication. And please subscribe to my channel. And of course, please hit the notification bell. Thank you so much. Let's talk soon. Bye.